God, we come before you this evening, acknowledging first of all that you are God and you are good. You are creator, the giver, and sustainer of life. You formed each and every one of us in our mother's womb. You made us in your image. Your word says that every good and perfect gift comes from you. It comes from above. We're so grateful for so many good things you've given us. Life, laughter, love, family, fellowship, faith, freedom. We thank you for those who right now around the world are fighting for our freedom. We ask you to protect them and you place your hand of protection on their families as well. We thank you for each person here, not only for making them in your image, but for empowering by your Spirit to do good things in this world, and particularly to stand on your word, stand for your word, and to speak your word in truth and in love. We know that right now, God, the world is crazy, and that you are calling your people for such a time like this to stand up and stand firm, to suit up, to go out, and to meet the enemy where they are, so that we can combat them with the truth of the gospel of Jesus Christ and the principles that we hold dear. We ask right now that you continue to strengthen us to be people who reflect your goodness and your glory, to be salt and light in this world that's dark and bland at best. Thank you for those here tonight. We ask that you continue to empower them, help them look for other ways to serve you. We ask that you place your hand of protection upon them and upon those who are speaking tonight. May you be glorified in everything we do, say, and think. We ask you to bless this food, this time together. In Jesus' name we pray. Everyone said, Amen.
And Mr. Boucher is going to bring us on the table.
All right, first pledge to the United States. American flag that so many of us fought for. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now to the great nation of Texas.
Our Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Everyone, get your attention, please. The dog, I guess the water hasn't made it yet, so we're going to fill a little bit of time. Give you some background here. We've produced. Can you hear me? Oh, Sean's here. Well, Pat, we can do it afterwards. Where'd Pat go?
I'm right there.
Sean's here.
Okay, let's go ahead.
Yeah, let's let Don go.
So nice. I don't think it's somebody else can argue question.
Oh, sorry. Well, without any further ado, Don Huffines is here.
It was a humbling experience, and I just say this, all those that didn't vote for me, like, what were you thinking? Say I'm right. But it was a great experience, and we made a big difference. I think the campaign really set raised the bar for our conservatives and had them jumping over it. Of course, Abbott was doing everything he can to imitate our campaign, and I mean, I could go through a lot of details about it. Y'all probably know all that, whether it was vaccine mandates, the property tax, the securing the border, and all the other issues. But we really drove the narrative across the state, not only this session and last year, but we did it at the previous session also. He knew I was coming after him, and I think that's what we got the heartbeat bill and election integrity and a lot of other things done, because he had to shore up his right flank, and he did. And we underestimated how much he could pivot. And when he doesn't, when we shouldn't have, because he's a career politician and that's just what they do. They really don't stand for any policies. But a lot of people ask me, and a lot of you guys ask me, was why is it we can't get a lot of our conservative legislation done and down in Austin? And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you what it's really like down there, and then I'm going to do some Q&A with you and find out what you're interested in, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. But most politicians are not really interested in what you think you did or not. I figured you probably knew that. They're real good at one thing. Telling you what you want to hear and then asking you for your money. No. That's what they do. When I got there in 2015, I ran for the Texas Senate. I was in the Senate 4 years. I went 14. I've been an incumbent. I've been in office over 20 years. I was a state senator for Dallas County, Senate District 16. And I got knocked out in 18 by a Democrat when they finished taking over Dallas County. But I got down there and I was just really just in a state of shock. I'd never been in an elected office, although I had been a delegate to 3 national conventions and been a delegate to a dozen state conventions. I love our state party. But how much these elected office holders do not want to solve a problem. They're not interested in the solutions unless it's going to benefit them, and even then they don't like the solutions. They just want to solve the symptoms of the problem so they can keep running on the issue. The currency in Austin is getting the bill done. That's your currency. That's how powerful you can be. But right after inauguration in 2015, Lieutenant Governor and his entourage called a meeting of the caucus as a whole. I mean, this is the day of the inauguration, that afternoon. There's only 31 state senators, as you know. There's 20 Republicans when I was there, and we all senators, we went this one little room and waited on him and waited and waited. And finally he comes busting in the room and he says, "Welcome, senators. Welcome to the most exclusive club in the state of Texas. You're so lucky to be here. You don't know how lucky you really are. There's only 140 of y'all still alive." And he said, "You will never hold a fellow senator accountable. You will never do anything to embarrass your fellow senators. Your loyalty always lies with your fellow senators and with leadership." And they go off on that for a long time, and it wasn't the only time he talks about that. And so I'm sitting in the back of the room thinking, I wonder if I'm the only person here that was wondering why they call legislators members. But they don't wonder it, because they're members of the club. That is what matters to them, is being a club member. So when they say they're going to come, do they care about what you want? They don't care near about what you want as much as they do what another senator wants. It could be a Democrat. Because how do you move up in the food chain? Like I just said, you get a bill done. Well, who can pass your bills? Fellow senators. And who's really in charge of all that? Leadership, Lieutenant Governor. in the House, of course, it's the Speaker. It's no different in Washington, D.C. It can be a very vindictive, mean place. When I brought up constitutional carry, to give you more stories, you wouldn't believe how hard they worked. This is in 2015. It was our #1 part of the Republican Party, by the way. They worked to make sure that bill would never see daylight. They made sure that I wouldn't have the opportunity to even amend the bill to possibly get constitutional carry on it. And you know why? Because they didn't want senators that weren't for it to have to be accountable. They do not want to be accountable to any hard vote. And they'll admit that. Leadership will tell you, we're not bringing up a bill because it might embarrass some other senators that are in here. Well, the Republican Party platform. How many of y'all have been delegates to the state convention? Yes, great. You know what we work on there almost the entire time is our platform. We got thousands and thousands of delegates that work on it. We all get to vote on it. And one reason I ran for the Texas Senate was because I was so frustrated going to all the state conventions and knowing that all the legislators ignored our platform. They don't pay any attention to our platform. So I carried it around with me when I was in Austin, carried it wherever I went. And I would bring it out, and you'd be surprised at the comments I would get from other legislators. They'd actually make fun of it. They don't care about our party platform. And they don't make any bones about it. Well, that's the reason I ran for Senate, and it's one of the reasons I ran for governor. I can give you a lot more. But we did make good progress. Let's talk about what we made progress about and on, and that's the #1 issue, the border. I think we brought a lot of attention to the border. Abbott wasn't paying that much attention to it. And I think that now you're hearing a lot about Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution, right? Nobody had ever talked about that. I never read about that anywhere. I just read the Constitution. And it clearly states and defines what's the difference between the authority of the state and the federal government. And in Article 1, at the very end, it talks about what a state can do if it's invaded. And the state really can do anything it wants if it's being invaded if the federal government's not coming to their aid. You can charge a tax. You can enter into a compact with another state with military. You can enter a treaty with a foreign nation. You can do whatever you need to do to defend your state from an invasion. So I wrote that up in my campaign and immediately when we entered the race in May. And then Abbott over the time started talking about it. But Texas has a great military. And we can secure the border. It's just a matter if you've got the political will. Our military is very robust. We have over 20,000 in it. We've got F-16s. The key to the plan, though, is making sure we hold Mexico accountable. Mexico is being a really bad neighbor. There's no doubt about it. We don't have to go to war with them. We have to have an economic war with them. They love making money. So how do we punish them to make sure they secure their side of the river? What we can do is make sure that all the truck traffic, Abbott tried it, but he did it wrong. We do $800 million worth of trade with Mexico a day. We can stop those trucks. And what about the airplanes? Every airplane that lands in the state of Texas is a commercial airliner coming from Mexico. We can search them. We're searching them for dope. We can take the wheels off, take the seats out. It just might take a few weeks. We can really hammer Mexico economically. Tourism is one of their #1 industries, if not the #1 industry in Mexico. We can start an ad campaign discouraging every tourist from going to Mexico. Just pointing out how dangerous it is if you read the State Department's website. I tell you, we can make them squeal. But Mexico, is, like I said, they're just a bad neighbor right now. Millions, I don't have to tell y'all how bad the border is. Millions and millions of people pouring across our border. Do you know how many illegals are in our school system? For 30 years plus?
Millions.
For several 100,000. We've been dealing with this problem every single year. And you've been paying for it. Billions of dollars. And you talk about our school taxes too high. The first thing we got to do is get the people out of the school system who aren't supposed to be in it. And poor Abbott, I tell him the same thing I kept saying all the time is, well, we don't have the authority. They always say, our hands are tied. Federal government just ties their hands. This is Biden's problem. It isn't Biden's problem, it's Texas's problem. This is premeditated attack on Texas. We're the last red border state. The very last one. Arizona went blue. And they know they can make Texas go blue. And that's the goal. And I keep telling it, I keep saying it. This is Texas. We don't ask permission from the federal government or anyone else to secure our border. We need to be on the offense on so many issues. The border is just one of them. Let's talk property tax. Y'all heard a lot about that right now, aren't you? We got competing bills flying around down there in Austin. You got one from the House and one from the Senate. And now the governor's finally waiting, and he waits till the last day. Typically how he operates. But the Senate plan, Patrick's plan, is on homestead exemption. And the governor and the House plan is compressing the rates. Well, the Huffines Liberty Foundation is what I started after the campaign. If you're not familiar with it, and you need to be, and what these signs are all about, it's a C3. We've done extensive research on property tax, the border, term limits. We got a lot of great papers out there that, on a lot of issues. We're pretty much rock shooting to go. But you need to read about property tax on HuffinesLiberty.com, and you can. It's got tremendous charts and graphs on the budget and everything else. But it is possible to eliminate the M&O tax and the school tax. It's very doable. Contrary to what Dan Paxton's going around and saying, he calls it a fantasy. It's a fantasy because he hadn't read my property tax plan. And all he has to do is read it. But it's very doable, and it's about not spending your money. Government never has enough of your money. And they never will. They just never will. If you want to limit government, you've got to limit the revenue. In the state of Texas, that's the only way you're going to get limited government is shut them off. And they're going to squeal bloody murder. Oh, we don't have enough money. Oh, we don't have enough money. That's what they always say. Well, how much is enough? It's never enough. Every time they get more money, you're losing liberty. Because every time government expands, you're losing more liberty. So, these guys don't. Here's the thing you got to remember. They are very concerned about any bill that might take away their cash flow. Permanently take it away. They don't want to be hamstrung with the fact that we don't know what the future is. That's not right. They want to have the discretion to spend as much of your money as they can, and they want to get it back to you. They're going around saying right now you've got a $17 billion tax cut. Let me tell you, it's a $12 billion, not 17. And they're saying that so they can say it's the biggest tax cut ever. Well, anyway, the Senate plan is to put quite a bit of it back to homestead exemption. Well, let's see, this will be the 4th time they've tried homestead exemption. And I'm a homeowner. I like homestead exemption, but it doesn't work. The prices are just going to go up, and you're going to be paying more tax the next year or the next. And school property taxes last year, in 22, according to the comptroller, went up 13% average across the state of Texas. And this is after they did all the fixes in 19, 21, and 17. You've got to control the spending. Well, So that's our plan, and the governor's plan is actually signed on to the House plan. It's a compression. And what that really means to compress the rates is the state of Texas is going to buy down the rates. So the state of Texas will pay the school property tax. They're talking about compressing it right now to $12 billion, which is about 15 to 20% of your M&O tax will go away permanently with the House plan. And it's more equitable. Right now, businesses pay about 50% of the tax, and homeowners pay about 50%. But there's no appraisal cap for businesses. There's no exemptions for any business. There's a few large businesses that get that 313 stuff, but a regular business. How many here have a business or work for a business? Everybody works for a business. I mean, everybody. Even if you work for the government, you really work for a business, because the government ain't getting it unless the business pays the people to pay their taxes. So businesses are getting hammered, just hammered. In Dallas, Texas, according to Dallas Morning News, last year, the average apartment complex appraisal went up 35% in 1 year. In 1 year. Now, how are they going to pay that? Well, they're going to raise the rents. How are they going to pay their mortgage if they don't raise the rents? They're going to raise the rents. So rental rates are going to keep going up. And you know, property tax doesn't matter if you're in a business if you make any money. Your business might be losing money every year. You're just barely getting by. But you're going to pay more. So my plan is to make it equitable across the board. It'll take about 8 years, and we spend our surpluses to buy it down every year. We need to put it in the Constitution so it's mandatory. Patrick runs around and says, well, it's not mandatory. Neither is any exemption. You got to get the Constitution so we can do all that. It's all doable if they want to make it happen. But you know what? What is the fundamental role of government? Well, that's what they do. But it's always in the figure of God-given liberties. Always. The fundamental role of government is always in the figure of God-given liberties. They don't get that. They think it's to provide everything you might want and need. You know, I keep my favorite document with me, which is our Constitution, and that's the Bible. And I know you guys get this, but our country was founded by guys that our founding fathers that really understood that. They knew the biggest threat to your liberty, to your God-given liberty, was the very government they were creating. It wasn't the British, it wasn't the French, it wasn't a foreign power. It's your own government. And they knew that. That's why they wrote the Constitution. That's why they wrote the Declaration of Independence, was to restrain government. At the end of the day, if our country goes down and our dream goes under, it'll be because we choked ourselves to death with expanding the government. And we're expanding it by giving them more of our wages. They're forcibly taking your wealth, and they're using it to do what? Create more government. So the key is to make sure that we have tax cuts or no taxes, no matter how equitable you like it, no matter where you think it should be. Just keep that in mind. The less money the government has, the better off our liberty is going to be.
Amen.
Oh, thank you. Well, let's talk about the one other issue that you're going to see coming back in a special session. There's going to be a lot of them, and that's education freedom. Education freedom. School choice. In 2015, I personally wrote with my team the ESA bill for school choice. I spent a lot of time on it, and we passed it out of the Senate. It's look, wherever you are with school choice, let me just help you. This is the United States of America. We believe in the free market, or we're supposed to believe in the free market. We're supposed to believe in competition, because competition always lowers the price, and increases the quality of everything it touches. And it's going to do the same thing with our education system. And we can find a plan that's going to work. But what matters is, these kids have been going to that school, the parents, and it doesn't work for them. We find an avenue that does work for them with their money. And that's what school choice is fundamentally all about. I mean, do you really think that it's fair that the government requires kids to go to school, to a government school, tells them which school they have to go to, tells them what the curriculum is going to be, it's picked by the government, the faculty is paid by the government, and now we've got pornography in our schools, they're having sex in middle schools, they're wondering about transgenderism and our culture's being destroyed, and for 3 generations they haven't had God in the classroom. You wonder why we have school shootings or anything else? It's because we're raising generation after generation of children in the state of Texas don't have any morals. But that's what we get from our government school system. And we wonder why people want to get out of it. Of course we want to get out of it. Well, Patriots, the March for Liberty is a long road. It's a long march. It's a battle, though. It really is a battle between good and evil. Evil's on the move. But the good news is, evil's really shown itself. Now, after the Wuhan and everything else, we can see who's with us and who's against us, and it's really lit up the battlefield. You know, evil never sleeps. It never gives up. It never takes prisoners. Then we go out and celebrate our little victories here and there, and the neighbors are just laughing about it. And that's why liberty's a long march. It's never over. But we did have some good victories in the state legislature this session. Let's talk about that a minute. One of my favorites, something I worked really hard on, that I bet you guys aren't really familiar with it passed. What's the one thing you hate doing every year of your car? What's the one thing you really hate doing every year of your car?
Inspection.
Yeah, inspection. Well, guess what? After September, you don't have to get a safety inspection on your vehicle anymore. I worked really hard on that. I got so close. It was the last 3 days in the 17th session to get that done out of the house. I didn't get it done. They made sure of that. But it did get passed this year. There was a few guys, car dealers who were working to get the bill passed against the other car dealers, so I was advising them. I gave them copies of the bill. They hired lobbyists. The bottom line is it's done. You do not have to get your safety inspection on your vehicle. Now, you will have to get your emissions test on your vehicle, and there's 14, 15 counties in Texas you got to do that. But no more safety inspection. So, but you still have to, they just moved the fee to $7 over to the registration fee. So you still got to pay your $7, but you have to go down there and get it. Well, we had some other success down there this year. We had a lot of success on the social issues, but not as much on fundamental issues, on the priorities, on the Texas Republican Party priorities. About half of those are going to get done, but the other half aren't. And the big ones are, of course, Democrat committee chairman, you know, they didn't move on that. They never moved on taxpayer-funded lobbyists and quite a few other significant pieces of legislation. And, you know, we've controlled everything in Austin for 20 years. The Republicans have. I just want to remind everybody of that. Over 20 years. That includes everything from the state of Texas, all the elected office on statewide. And we can get any bill done we want. The Republicans can. Any bill we want. We can get done on 48 hours or a normal 2-3 week period. So anytime you're worried about these our legislative priorities that don't get approved or common sense legislation, It's the Republicans' fault. That's the Republicans. And it's not the Democrats. The Democrats don't do anything. They can't control anything. They can't stop hardly any legislation the Republicans didn't want them to. The problem is, the House of Representatives, the Democrats elected a speaker. Well, of course the Democrats control it. Because all you got to do is get 15 Republicans to break ranks and all the Democrats. That's why Strauss got elected. And he got elected, remember, 10, 12, 14 years ago, and he had 11 Republicans vote for him. That was it. So that's the problem we got. It's fixable. Well, Patriots, I do believe we're making a tremendous amount of progress. I really do. We just think where we were a few years ago. There's a lot of things we could get better, but I think they are getting better. I really do. Our greatest days are coming. They really are. I need you guys to get fired up. Get fired up. And we got to wake up the sheep. There's a lot of sleeping sheep, and that's your job, is to wake them up and let them educate others about the greatness of our Constitution, the greatness of liberty, the power of the individual, the power of God Himself. And I can tell you, our greatest days really will come. God bless you. God bless Texas for liberty, prosperity, and virtue always. Thank you very much. Of course. Okay, we have any questions?
Come this way. I'll bring the mic to you.
Dennis, he said. Where'd he go?
Hey, Don? How much does the speaker influence a lot of these major bills that have gone through that we totally expected were a no-brainer that got killed?
I think the speaker has 100% influence on almost any bill that gets out of that chamber. You got to remember the speaker appoints the committee chairman, Senator Patrick. They appoint all the committees, who's on the committee, and they appoint the committee chair. To give you a perspective, in the Senate, a big committee like State Affairs will probably have 200 bills referred to it or more. And they'll have a hearing on 20. Who gets to pick who they're going to have, which bills they're going to have a hearing on? The committee chair and the lieutenant governor. And then the committee chair decides if they're even going to call for a vote. So it's absolutely, the speaker has tremendous authority over almost everything. You know, the local bills they probably don't care that much about, but they might if somebody complains and somebody gets in the way. A lobbyist will get to them, hey, my local bill's not moving, and things like that. So the speaker, he doesn't necessarily personally do it, but he sends one of the dozens of people that work for him. Like the lieutenant governor's got up to 50 people on staff. 50 people. Now 5 people on transportation, 5 people on education, or 8 people here and there in the budget. And he just tells them if it's something to do with one of those topics, he tells them to go in. So, you know, in the Senate, we can't even bring a bill up unless, when I was there, unless you had 20 senators sign off on it. And you got this green sheet of paper, and you have to check each one, and then you go give it to the Secretary of the Senate. Because if I say I've got a bill that comes out of committee, and I want to bring it to the floor, the Secretary of the Senate will say, do you have your green sheet? And I say yes. And then we hand it to them, and they check to see which senator said they're going to vote approved for you to bring your bill to the floor. It does not mean they're going to vote for it. How many bills do you think came to the floor of the Texas Senate when I was there and did not pass? 0. 0. Every bill that comes to the floor of the Texas Senate will pass. Will pass. Not the amendments, but the bill. That's because you can't bring it to the floor unless you got 20 senators signed off, and if they don't know it's not going to pass, they're not going to do it. Now, why is that? It's because they don't want anyone to be embarrassed. They don't want anyone to take a hard vote. In the committee, if the committee vote is going to be close, say 5 to 6 in an 11-person committee, one way or the other, there's a good chance that committee chairman will not ever call for that vote. Because he doesn't want to embarrass anybody, particularly if it goes down. That's too close, you see. That's too close. So that's how it operates. I'm just telling you. So yes, leadership is everything.
Hi, Mr. Huffines. Thank you for coming in. I'd like to tell you I did vote for you, but we're going to disagree vehemently over the school choice agenda. I exposed the C-scope curriculum back in 2013, so I have no love for the government public school system. But the same legislatures that passed the laws that have implemented the progressive pedagogy that's in our schools today are the same ones pushing school choice. And Jeb Bush, globalist Jeb Bush, the UNESCO, Bill Gates, they're all pushing school choice. And that's to encompass private schools and homeschool students under the same government-run system, which we will have no choice. We have choices now. We can spend our money and go somewhere else if we want to. Sadly, the Texas Constitution makes us fund these government-run schools. But there will be no government-free choice if the school choice legislation passes.
Thank you,
Well, I have certainly heard that. Now, I homeschooled all 5 of our children. Mary Catherine and I did. We had 4 boys and a girl, and I've got 5 grandchildren, and they're going to be coming out. But I certainly wouldn't send them to government schools if I was their parents, and I encourage all my grandchildren never to go there. And I hope my children's children and their children and their children never go to the government schools either. But I get that. Now, one thing I would say, though, is that as far as I know, and certainly my opinion, is it's never mandatory. So if you want to participate in the system, you can. If you want to get the money, you can. If you don't, you can homeschool and keep it the way it's going. And I think that we've got to come up with a solution for kids, particularly the kids in these bad schools. How are they going to get out?
Why are they bad? Why are they bad?
Good. Pardon me? Yeah, it's another government school. Right, to another government school. But look, who trains the teachers? The socialists in our universities. Have you been to, I'm sure there's different ones, but I'm talking like Dallas Independent School District. It's the ones I was principal today on and stuff like that, so I'll go down there and see it and all. I mean, these people, all these teachers are 28 and under, 30 and under, most of them. The principals are 35 years old, 32 years old. And I kid you not, they're all almost like universally socialists. And a lot of them are transgenderism and all this stuff that's going on. That's just how they are. So you can go from one government school to the next government school, and even in Highland Park High School, Highland Park Middle School in Dallas, it's bad. It's a bad situation because these teachers are all trained in these governments in our education system. So I don't have any confidence in it. I just don't. And you're not. I think it's going to be almost impossible to fix the government school system.
Well, you have school choice, and those schools, your private and your home schools, will be ruined as well.
Well, let's hope not. There's one way around that. We looked at another thing. If you get on my website, you can see it. And it's like more of a tax credit system and a charity system. So the state of Texas never gets involved in the process, except to give a credit to the business. So if the business is paying $1 million in property tax, it can check a block and say that I want that $1 million to go to a scholarship fund for kids to go to Christian school. Okay, the government never gets involved with that. That fund would be set up separate, independent of the state of Texas. There's no strings attached. And then those schools that want to participate can pull down on that fund for their kids. And so it's the same with a tax credit system. If you're paying a franchise tax or margins tax a business, you apply that credit The state of Texas, instead of paying the tax, the state of Texas gives you a credit, and the state of Texas has nothing to do with it. The money goes directly to the schools that want to participate. Sure. But believe me, I do not want the government involved.
Okay. I'm just going to follow up with Denver. I'm on the same topic. I don't want any bill that has anything to do with private schools or with homeschooling. I homeschooled for almost 25 years. And I'm telling you, we did this on time. You can do it. There's free offers out there. There are all kinds of places. I don't even want the name homeschooling and stuff put on any government bill. I don't care what you do. They will come after you. It's a sure thing. And if you think you can get by with them not coming after the private schools and homeschoolers, then that's an area that I'm firmly disagree with you on. Because I've had some personal experience when I taught in a private school with a caseworker. And I'm telling you, he made it clear to me, eventually, we will get your curriculum, and you won't be able to talk about Jesus. And you won't be able to talk about the Lord. And that's their plan. And they're going to go year after year after year working that plan. That's a communist plan. So if you're not on board with this, and that's what maybe I'm just going to disagree.
Well, I'd say this. I totally is a communist plan. That's why they already took, in 61, 62, they took prayer out of schools, and it's absolutely Marxist. But I just think that you've got to have competition out there. And look, don't forget that the state of Texas can do anything it wants at any time. The state of Texas could pass a bill on special session to regulate every homeschooler. They can pass a bill to regulate every private school. They always have that authority to do that. They can do it anytime they want. They can pass legislation to get rid of private schools if they wanted to. We can pass legislation that every school district is set up through the state legislature. They can change the districts, they can change the whole process. The funding formulas, they already fund that out. So don't think that just because the way you got it is the way it's going to be. You have to be diligent and to protect the fact that we've got hands off on homeschooling. It doesn't want the choice programs don't have to have any strings attached to them if we want to be creative and see beyond the obvious. But we've got to get rid of it. We've got to figure out opportunities for children not to be in the government school system. And I'm all for homeschooling. Just remember the state of Texas created every county, every city, every political subdivision in this state at the whim of the state legislature. And so we all think that, this is just the way it is. That's not necessarily true. The state of Texas can change the counties. We can get rid of counties. So, anyway, that's it.
Hello, nice to meet you. Before I ask my question, I'm just going to say for anyone who gets this, I am not 10 years old. I respect you a lot. I actually voted for you in your primary, so I would say that says a lot about who you are. But I just wanted to say, if you don't mind, if I educate you for a second. You were saying that the Founding Fathers, they wanted to limit the federal government. That's what it was all about in the Constitution. Just, if you don't mind, I'll educate you for a second. Okay. But the Founding Fathers, they actually thought that the state governments were going to be out of control more than the federal government. And so why they had the Constitution was to balance the two, that there's a balance. They didn't want the people to be over both the state and federal government, but they did think initially that the state government was going to get out of control more than the federal government. You saw that in the Civil War. And so that's why they created the Constitution. And then ultimately, you are correct. George Mason brought up during their convention, hey, what if the federal government actually goes out of control? Because they hadn't thought about that before. And during the Constitutional Convention, they debated on everything. But when Article 5 was brought up by George Mason, one of the Founding Fathers, it was ultimately not debated whatsoever, and they all agreed that Article 5 should be put in the Constitution. So, do you know what Article 5 is?
Yes, go ahead.
And so what Article 5 does is it limits the federal government, and we're talking about limiting the federal government, which I completely agree with done in other ways. Well, ultimately, the only way that the federal government can be fully limited is through Article 5 of the Constitution. It is constitutional, and completely constitutional. And what it does is, instead of going through Congress, because Congress is never going to limit themselves, that the people in the states can limit the federal government, put us into a much better area where we are, and so I just wanted to let you know and tell you about Article 5 of the Constitution.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for the comment. For the record, I'm not going to go either.
Two things that concern me is the voters overwhelmingly voted for our current Attorney General, and yet it appears that the legislature is trying to overturn the will of the people. The will of the people is they wanted Ken Paxton as their Attorney General. The Senate still has a chance to do the right thing, but I think that y'all are underestimating how irritated, and that's a light word, I could say it much stronger, but I won't, how irritated everybody is with this current situation. Anybody here in Metcalf's district? Okay. Look up his vote on this particular subject. Second thing, you mentioned about getting rid of the inspection stickers. That really hasn't accomplished anything. You still got to take your car to a place to get the emissions testing done. And you still have to have that emissions testing in order to get your car registered. So getting rid of the inspection sticker is good PR, but it really hasn't accomplished a whole heck of a lot. So that's what I want to do.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the comments. I disagree with you on the latter one, you said on inspection stickers, because there's 220 counties in Texas that doesn't have to get the emissions test. So it's not just what's here in Harris County, but it's what's good for the state of Texas. There's only 13 states left in the nation that still have a safety inspection, and they're all Democrat. So this is just a little bit of liberty. I didn't say, I'm not there, I'm not in office, but it's just a little bit of liberty. You got to get back and not have to deal with it. And the first one, was it a comment or a question? It was on Paxton. As a comment on Paxton. Well, look, it's this is a very, very sensitive topic, of course. I mean, one thing I'll say about this is that as an elected office holder, you must hold yourself to the highest standards possible. You just have to. And I did that. I made sure when I was in elected office, I never took any money from the government, no pay, no pension, no health care, no reimbursements, no expense vouchers, no nothing. I was the only one in modern history to ever do that. And it was for two reasons. One is I never wanted to work for the government, I always worked for the people. But the other reason is so there are no questions of impropriety. I didn't want anyone to think I was doing this for the money or for any other reason except for good government and for liberty and freedom. And so you've got to hold yourself to a level that's beyond reproach. And he didn't always do that, or he wouldn't be in the pickle that he's in. I think the Senate's going to give him a good hearing, a good trial. When they have lawyered up, oh my gosh. They got the best attorneys in the state of Texas, so all of them do. But I think the Senate's going to listen to the evidence and decide one way or the other. I have no idea what they're going to do. That's how they're going to vote. So that's it.
But just for clarification, if we do away with the inspection stickers, is there some mechanism to keep unsafe vehicles off the road?
Well, this is on passenger vehicles, not commercial vehicles. Well, there is. Hopefully they'll break down. But all the studies show that safety is not an issue with accidents. It's very rarely a cause of an accident. North Carolina did studies, Pennsylvania did studies, the federal government did studies, and states with and without safety inspections have no correlation to accidents. And anybody that's got the information is insurance companies. Insurance companies do not give Texans a discount because we have a safety inspection on them. So,
Why didn't you get rid of the emissions?
Because it's federal and they could, if they occurred.
If I might,
It's a Clean Air Act, so they could do it. Other states have gotten rid of the emissions. I just say one step at a time. But I nothing I can do about it. Except write to them or call them and complain. And just like you.
I'd like 2 points. One, the young lady brought up about the Convention of States. Our resolution expires. It needs to be renewed. We all need to contact the governor and have him put it on some of the upcoming sessions, at least one. Okay, and secondly, I'd like to invite everybody to an annual event on 4th of July. We hold a reading of the Declaration of Independence on the courthouse steps of Conroe's Courthouse, and all of you get to participate. In other words, it's not just one person reading it, everybody in the crowd gets to read part of it. So this is just an open invitation, noon, the 4th of July, courthouse steps in Conroe.
Everybody get that? 4th of July, Conroe Courthouse steps. It's going to be great. I'm going to go there and read it.
Hey, Don, how you doing? Thank you for coming again. So I think Kenny Webster says it best when he describes Governor Abbott as Governor Good Enough. He can be good enough, and I think we can help make him good enough more often if he had more reliable Republican people in the House. So the question is, going into 2020 for the 2024 elections, what would you tell Matt Rinaldi right now how to set up the 2024 elections about some of our GOP representatives absolutely not including Steve Tucker?
The question was, what would tell Rinaldi?
Yeah, help a stronger GOP. What do you tell Matt Rinaldi?
For the state rep, for the office holders? Yeah. Well, this has been a discussion. The question is, how do you get the people in office to really pay attention and make sure they're actual Republicans? That was the question? Yeah. Well, that's what we've been fighting over for 40 years in the state of Texas. And, you know, at our convention, we come up with Rule 44, and we're supposed to sign this with that you endorse and support all the party platform, and I signed it, and everybody signs it, but they just lie. One thing they're real good at, office holders, is lying. So it's a tough struggle. It really is. And one thing you're thinking about is maybe we have close primaries. If you got a lot of Democrats crossing over on close elections. So they're doing all they can. I think Matt's a great chairman. I think he's doing a great job for the GOP, but it's not an easy task.
Hello, Don. Good to see you again. Welcome back to the greatest county in Texas.
Thank you.
2 questions. Question number 1. Are you running for governor again?
I am not running for governor right now, I'll tell you that's for sure. I tried that. It didn't go as good as I hoped. It really depends on the field, you know, what happens in the future, and who's signing up, who isn't. You know, we have no term limits. Abbott can run for 50 years. And I kind of think he will. And I thought last cycle, if everybody wasn't mad about what he did to us and not to get him out of office with COVID shutdowns and everything else, I really just thought that it needs to be his 3rd term. I just couldn't imagine a good actual Republican vote for him. But I was wrong.
Not enough good.
I don't think anybody trusts that vote either. But question number 2, if you do run, would you consider naming a running mate ahead of time rather than the way it went, the 3-way race last time that split everybody up? Would you consider naming one of those guys or someone else as a running mate ahead of time, like a ticket, so that everybody knows what they're getting as a way to overpower?
Oh, I've given some thought. No, I have no idea. It's just really, it's a lot of work to run statewide, and it takes a lot of money. It's a big effort. It's a big undertaking. So, but we did a good job. We had 12 field offices open around the state. We spent a lot of money and a lot of time. So, like I said earlier, I really think we moved it.
Yes, you spoke earlier about the difficulty getting a bill even voted on or
because everybody's so worried about, their bill being chosen and they're not, and someone else is not. The question is how do they get these, this kind of relationship? How did that develop? And is there anything we can do to start breaking that up? We need people that are actually there to support their constituents, represent their constituents, and not there to make friends and go to parties.
Well, that's just electing the right people. It really, it's just a matter of really electing people that are doing it for the right reasons. In the House, just give you perspective, and it's probably not much different in Washington, but they'll hotbox you in the sense they'll come to your desk and they yell at you, they scream at you. They'll come to your office, they meet other legislators. Why don't you just cooperate? Why don't you just do what leadership asks? Why are you not listening? Don't you want a good committee? Don't you want to be the committee chairman? You're never going to get a bill done in this chamber if you don't cooperate. And they say that mean. They'll cuss at you. And you know what? They're not kidding. The first session I was there, they didn't pass one bill. They made sure I didn't get one bill done. Because I wasn't going to listen to them. And that's the problem. It's a tremendous pressure. It's really hard to stand up when everyone's telling you to sit down. It just is. And your job is, there you go, stand up. But if you're there every day, and you're in your, just think of it in high school. If everybody in your classroom is saying, go in one direction, and one kid stands up, it's pretty hard. It's brave. I think it's the biggest problem in our society, the biggest problem, what you were saying, is just a lack of courage. We don't have courageous leaders. And the country and the state of Texas is so thirsty for leadership.
Why are they leaders?
Because, I don't know, because our politicians don't think of it that way. She asked, why aren't they good leaders? Politicians care about mainly getting reelected. And it's really hard for them to lead a charge on something. Because it's risky. We're risk averse. They're not out there to take a chance. Most of them haven't been in business, and in business we take risk every day. You're the boss, you got to make a decision of what you're going to do or not do to feed your family and your team members. They don't normally think of it that way. So they're really risk averse. And so the leadership skills for them is staying hidden behind the scenes. They'll get reelected, it won't be a problem. And that's just how they think.
Okay. I just have one question. Good to see you again. It bugged me during the campaign, and it still kind of bugs me now. As an Aggie, white orange.
Well, first, I went to A&M for a year. My dad got a maroon coffin made, and he just loved A&M. I went to A&M 1 year, then I went to UT 3 years. But this is not burnt orange. It kind of looks like Oklahoma State. Where do you, Oklahoma State? Oh, Astros. Oh, Astros. That's what this is. It could be like Florida, maybe Tennessee. But it's a campaign color. It's a happy color that we picked. Everybody's red, white, and blue. I wanted a different color. And it's cheerful and happy, and it's noticeable. And so, and the first Republican governor that ever was elected in Texas in modern missions, Bill Clements, when he ran in '78, I actually volunteered for his campaign. He had orange, not this bright, and blue signs. And I said, I always remember that. I really like orange. He won too.
Don, good to see you. Next, Mark, good to see you. Mary Catherine, come back here in Montgomery County. I think one of the things, going back to the school choice issue, there's two fundamental parts of that equation, right? One is Ginger Russell's philosophical aspects, okay? The other side of that is the financing of it. And the way the program is being presented right now is they want us, the taxpayers, to fund both public education and the private and the public and the homeschoolers. So I mean, what Abbott did, because he knew if he went through is to get anybody away from school districts, That thing was dead. And so I think that's one of the other aspects that we need to factor in, not just the philosophical side, which is important, okay? But how we're gonna pay for it is also important. You don't get competition unless you actually pull the money out of the public school system. And no except leadership, like you're saying, to do anything like that. So to me, that's just, your thoughts on how we achieve both of those, balance both of those.
Well, it's a very good point, Mark. It really is. The money's a big issue, and I think they're just trying to get it done any way they can. And unfortunately, they're driving a lot of districts. They're driving a lot of rural districts into taking to agreeing not to fight it. The budget, they always brag about following the constitutional spending limits. That's really not what they do. They have supplemental budgets that are huge. They backfill the budget if you have a supplemental budget, so the baseline goes up, and then going forward, they're going to do a supplemental budget. I'm talking about $10, $20 billion. So they're never under the constitutional spending limit. They're spending $65 billion more this year than they did last time. And they gave us $12 billion for property tax. Good.
Don,
Taxpayers.
it looks like I get the last question, and I'm going back to property taxes. And whether the taxes are too high or too low, maybe discussable, but they have no element of fairness in the system. I mean, somebody that has 4 cars has to pay twice as much to educate illegal as somebody has one. Totally unrelated. And I'm wondering about the difference between houses and apartments. And a lot of people think that a couple in a house probably pays twice the tax that a couple in an apartment does. Is that true? Do you know?
Well, the numbers that we're using is about $350 for a Class A apartment a month in rent is related to property tax. $350 a month. So it's $4,000 a year. That apartment complex is paying for that one unit. In apartments, 45 to 55% of the total expenses on an apartment complex, a major Class A apartment complex, is property tax. So it's way over 50% of their total expenses is property tax. So it's so the higher that goes, the higher the rent's got to be, whether it's apartment rent or an office building or anything else. Or land, landowners aren't getting any relief, and there's no appraisal caps. That's why the House had that 5% appraisal caps. It could go in, if you only got 5%, and homeowners have 10% appraisal caps. Businesses have none. I've had land that go up 100 to 200% a year. Every year when they reappraise it, they don't reappraise it.
You're not a bad lawyer.
Well, we fight it. I didn't say we didn't win. I said that's how much the appraisals go up. So there's got to be relief for our business owners. There's just got to be. You can't. It's not sustainable the way we've got it. It's not equitable. It's not sustainable. But when you bifurcate the system between homeowners, and it's not all homeowners, it's just ones that file their homestead exemption, right? You can own a lot of houses, but you only get one. And then you have a bifurcated system, meaning you've got businesses and homeowners fighting each other. And then you're going to have 2 whole different systems, and you've got all these exemptions. That's what the communists always wanted. They wanted to divide us into small segments. The communists always do, so we fight each other. And good government policy on taxes is you make it equitable to all taxpayers across the board at the same time. And then when you don't have all these exemptions, you don't have everybody fighting you. The state of Texas, even the Democrats for 100 years made sure that we did not have a bifurcated system. And that's exactly what Ken Paxton is trying to get us into. And going forward, just think what's the end game going forward. If he thinks the homestead exemption is so great, why is he doing it now for the 3rd time in 6 years? Because it didn't work. It doesn't work. So it's just odd that he keeps going back to doing the same thing again. And to my mind, it's just frustrating. You've got to lower the rate for everybody all the time, every year, put it in the Constitution. And right now, we're going to lower it 15%. Every year, you only have to do that 3 times, and it goes away. And then that's what we want. The M&O taxes have to be property tax. You got to make it equitable. So everybody's rolling the same direction.
Right.
Well,
Mr. Huffines, well, thank you so much for coming. We hope you won't hurry off with your survey because I think people have a few more questions.
Okay, sure.
Plus, we have a few things we'd like you to see.
Okay.
That you can know more about us, so thank you. And I do want to apologize. I had a real nice intro for you, but this guy screwed up.
Thanks for throwing me out of the bus. Sorry about that.
Well, thank you, Don.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
So when we leave, we're trying to educate the voters of Montgomery County of what the Tea Party stands for. So I don't know if y'all know Hank Batt, but Hank Batt does Hank's Think Tank. He does a podcast with all the politicians in Montgomery County. We're working with Hank to put some videos together. This first one has already dropped. Hopefully you've seen it, shared it, and like it. Constructive criticism is always good, but you'll see the first one, and then you're going to see the second video, world premiere. It hasn't dropped yet. It's going to drop tomorrow, so you get the sneak peek. So hopefully the sound works. If not, I'll hold the mic up to it.
All right, welcome to Dennis, so hang out.
Constitution. We regard the U.S. Constitution to be the supreme law of the land.
We believe that this sacred document is the foundation of our great country and should be followed to the letter. Constitutional conservatism is the only way forward.
The third core value is to uphold the free markets. A free market is the economic outcome of personal liberty. The founders believed that personal and economic freedom were indivisible, as do we at the Montgomery County Tea Party.
Government interference with the free market system, whether it originates from the federal, state, or local government, is punitive, unwelcome, and disruptive, thereby inhibiting individual pursuit of happiness and economic liberty. The fourth core value is to uphold limited government. We believe that the government is best when it governs the least.
The federal government is limited in its power according to the U.S. Constitution and supports individual liberties as well as individual responsibility.
The fifth core value is to uphold fiscal responsibility. A limited government designed to protect the blessings of liberty must be fiscally responsible. Increased spending, taxation, and debt unjustly restrict the very individual liberty that limited government is designed to protect.
We put extra emphasis on fiscal responsibility. We cannot stress enough that at the Montgomery County Tea Party, we consider this in every element in the support of all office holders.
Lastly, number 6 is to uphold ethics. We believe in honesty, transparency, and ethical practices. Our principles are important, and so are the methods we use to achieve them. We want our government to be ethical, so we must be ethical as well. These are the core values that the party was founded upon, and we live by these values. It really...
There's more.
Buffering?
Turning
is the same values our forefathers had and held throughout the architecture of our government. It worked then, and it still works today.
I would like to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. As a public-based organization, we want to help you become a more educated voter. Become a part of the governmental process. Simply attend our meetings the first and third Monday of every month, or become a paid member, which affords you the right to vote on important action items, while also helping provide information to other voters. Again, this is an excellent way to meet your elected officials or their next opponent. After all, we the people are in charge. Please visit us at mctparty.org.
World premiere.
The political environment today is filled with narratives, conjecture, and information. The Montgomery
Buffering.
County Tea Party is designed to help filter through those elements and provide a stable set of informational guides. We provide truth about candidates, office holders, proposition.
Good.
Legislation, and the rhetoric that may attempt to influence your vote.
Lauren could certainly attest to the situation.
All right.
With Montgomery County Tea Party assisting her in getting information.
Yes,
All right, little truck tomorrow, share it with all your friends. Like it. Yay.
Okay. I don't think you saw all of that.
No.
We'll have to see it. It's going to be released
Tomorrow.
So watch it and see what you think. Remember, we're unpaid, the unpaid non-professionals. It does look much better when it plays in full. But let us know what you think, because we're trying to correct a lot of misinformation that's out in the county. And to answer to other counties who want more of what we have here. And the only way that we can verify that they're what we have is by something like this, because they can't travel from all over Texas to come here and see. Because the next thing we want to do, yes, if you come back up, I won't give you intro head for you though.
Thanks, Matt. I just wanted to point out that we have these pamphlets from the foundation, the Huffines Foundation, eliminating Texas school and no property tax in 8 years. And then my Operation Queen Suite for the border, they're on the tables right over here. And you can go to our website, but there's a lot more detail on a lot of this. We also have free t-shirts and everything else up there. The Huffines Foundation right over there. And thank you guys so much, really. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming today. Okay, now I want to go ahead and give like a few minutes to each of the elected officials that are here tonight or their staff. So you will see, yes. Oh, and you'll just come up here and I'll let you announce who you're with and
Brandon Decker with the Office of State Representatives, Utah.
okay, Brandon, move it. Matt Graver, you.
Brandon Stein, I'm your county clerk. It's good to see you on the scene.
Okay, are there any more? Oh, come on up here, Mr. Ernest. So I introduce you? Okay. Kenneth will come up here. He's an elected official. Mr. Boucher was here. They're both elected officials for the long-term groundwater. But they want to keep it a secret. Anybody else? Well, we're glad that y'all came tonight. I hope that you'll stick around and you can ask Mr. Huffines questions that you didn't get to ask during the open session. I know that you have other questions. Ask one of the board members if you have a question for us. Anybody that you see that's ready to go, here we go. It's getting loud here, so I guess we, anyway, thank you guys for coming.